everyone. Come on in. Welcome, welcome. We're going to get started here in just a second, talking about the $1 million question. Hi, guys. So, in the comments below, here's what I want for you to do. Tell me the name of your favorite book. So, it can be a book that you enjoy personally. It can be a book that you enjoy reading with your kids. So, I want you to put in the comments below, what is your favorite book to read? Or you could even tell me the favorite genre, either one. So, either book or favorite genre. Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome. So tonight we're going to be talking all about reading engagement, the BFG. I've seen that one a couple times. I read that this summer. It was excellent. Harry Potter changed my life, literally. I'm going to talk about that one in a second too. So welcome, Wonder, excellent title. You know that on, I think it's August 17th, the Augie and Me comes out. I'm so excited about that. Wonder, To Kill a Mockingbird, interesting. Great. All right, I'm going to flip this around so we can get going. Everybody, hello, welcome. So I have a tripod, but I can't quite figure out my rhythm with that thing, so I'm not going to use it tonight. But I'm really excited about talking. So go ahead and keep putting, for those of you that are just coming in, keep putting the name of your favorite book in the comments below. If you can't comment, don't forget that you can tweet me at Hope King Teach. So you can also tweet me there so you can put the name, or you can, in the comments, if you can comment if it's not too full, or you can tweet me. So you're putting the name of your favorite book. All right, so we're going to be talking all about reading engagement tonight. I'm really excited about this because I have been doing some serious reading this summer. I'm going to talk about some books that I've read. I'm going to talk about some thoughts that I've had, but I really want it to be kind of a conversation between all of us because really there's no one size fits all. I know that I titled this the $1 million question, and I am going to answer that for what I believe, but we have to remember as teachers, there's different philosophies, there's different theories. So I'm just going to kind of talk about my experience with teaching reading and kind of some transitions that I've had, and hopefully give you some strategies. And I have some really cool surprises at the end of some things that I'm working on. So you're definitely going to want to see what those are because I'm really excited about some collaboration with other people and some things that we're working on with reading. So super excited about that. So we're going to go ahead and get started. If it's your first time with me, put firstie down in the comment below so I know this is your first time in one of my scopes. For those of you that have been here, you already know me, but for my first time people, my name is Hope King. I am a teacher blogger at Elementary Shenanigans, once second grade Shenanigans, now elementary, and I'm a TPT author. I also teach at a school in Atlanta, Georgia called the Ron Clark Academy. Welcome first time people, glad to have you all. So I teach there. I teach 5th and 6th grade reading. This year I'll also teach 5th grade science, and I'll also be teaching 6th grade writing. So I've got a pretty full plate, but I'm really excited about it because I feel like with reading I can integrate any kind of content or any kind of concept that the kids are learning, so I'm super excited. So we're going to go ahead and jump right in and get going with reading engagement. Somebody just said holy energy. All right, this must be your first time in one of my scopes. I'm always crazy and all over the place. So reading engagement. First of all, I kind of want to talk about how I started teaching reading and kind of how it's morphed a little bit into what it is now. And into what it's going to be this year. Because I've posted some things on Instagram. If you follow me on Instagram, I've posted some things about some books I've been reading, some professional development I've been going through, and it's really changed my thought process. So here we go with a quick story, and then I'm going to get into some strategies and things that you can use in your classroom, some things that I want you to read and look into if you teach reading. Now, if it's so funny to me when I always say, let me know if you teach reading, because y'all, honestly, everybody teaches reading. That's what I don't get. And that's the mindset that we have to get into, is that it doesn't matter if we are classified as a reading teacher. We all teach reading, or at least we should all teach and emphasize and encourage and model reading for kids. Because I feel like too often that is something that is forgotten, and people are so into their contents. Well, I teach social studies or I teach science. We have got to figure out a way to model these kind of, not really, what do I want to call it? These routines, these practices that kids should do to become lifelong readers. So it is important, even if you're in here, even if you're a principal, whatever your role is, know that you teach reading. Everybody teaches reading. And I feel like as a reading teacher, if people would kind of get that, get that concept, my job would be a lot easier, because I feel like I'm constantly fighting the battle of getting my kids to just like reading. Like sometimes that's even my struggle, is just to even get them to like reading. Most of the time they come to me and they hate it, or at least that's what they say. And we're going to talk about why that is. and some things and some strategies and techniques that I've used to kind of switch that mindset around. But I also want you to know it's not something that changes overnight. So the things I'm going to talk to you about today, don't expect to go into your classroom tomorrow and you're going to be able to say one thing or do one lesson or one strategy and it's going to set your kids on fire for reading. That's not how this is going to happen, okay? So let me go ahead and give you my background, my story quickly, and then I'm going to talk about some things that I've learned and some things that I'm going to do this year. So my first year of teaching, I taught first grade, and I have always loved reading. I've always loved teaching reading, and I've always loved to read. And so after that first year, I typically used a basal reader. I did some small groups, and at the end of that year, my kids could read. And so I thought to myself, oh my gosh, I am like the best reading teacher. Oh my word. Like, look at my kids. They're reading books. This must be my niche. This must be my skill as a teacher, is to teach reading. Y'all, I thought I had it nailed. I was like, oh my goodness. I mean, I was really phonics based and driven, and I just thought that I had it going on. I was like, man, it must be that really killer reading instruction that I got as a child, because I thought that I had it going on. Well, then that was when I just had my early childhood elementary degree. So then I decided, because I was such a phenomenal reading teacher, that I would go and get my master's in reading. So I went to Clemson University in South Carolina, and I decided to get my master's in reading. And y'all, that master's program rocked my world. There were so many philosophies and concepts and ideas that I did not even know existed. And I look back and I'm like, oh, like, I should go back and tell the district that they can have my paycheck back for that first year. Like, I'm like, oh, here I am thinking that I was the greatest reading teacher, and I was terrible. Like, everything I did was, I was just like, oh, those poor kids. Oh my gosh, if I see them today, I'm so embarrassed. Like, and I know we all go through that as a first year teacher, and that's totally normal. So if those are things that you're feeling, I feel it every year, okay, y'all? I feel it every year. And so anyways, I went through that master's program, learned a tremendous amount about really the art of reading. How you teach reading, how you get kids engaged with reading. But again, it was philosophies. So philosophies and reading things in a book is one thing. But when you get into that classroom, it's totally different, right? So went through the master's program, got a lot of hands-on experience with kids and reading and books and ideas and concepts. And I really started in my classroom giving my students choice. So it was more about self-selected reading and more about things that they were into. And we're going to get into all this in just a second. But through the years, as it progressed, as I went to second grade and as I went to third grade, I started seeing some shifts in my reading. I started seeing that my kids, when I allowed them choice, they weren't just reading books because I wanted them to read books. They weren't just reading a book because it was assigned. They were reading because they were interested in what they were reading. So my story's not done though. So then many of you know, I taught first grade, I taught second grade, I taught third grade. And y'all, by third grade, I felt like I had a reader's workshop figured out, like on point. And I really did. I mean, for my classroom, it worked. I had that self-selected part. I had the small group. I had the reading mini lessons. So I really felt like I had a good handle on it. My kids were successful readers. They enjoyed reading. And it was a very smooth progress and transition in the classroom as far as reading instruction. Then I went to fifth grade. So here's where my story kicks in. Then I went to RCA and I went to fifth grade, and here is the deal, y'all. I feel like a lot of times as we transition and as kids go into, upper elementary and middle school, teachers lose sight of that reading philosophy or idea that they have, and it comes, to be, these are the novels we have to read. I have to get this done. I have to get this reading instruction done. You have to have this many AR points. And then we wonder why kids, when they get to middle school and high school, hate to read, or even upper elementary for that matter. So we're thinking to ourselves, oh my gosh, like what? It's just because they're getting older and they have more to do. And we make all of the excuses to why kids hate reading. The reason that I feel like kids hate reading, and I think back and reflect back up on my school experiences, and when I got to middle school and I got to high school, the reason that I hated to read at school was because I was forced to read classics. Books, and I have mentioned this in Scopes before, books that they have read in 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th grade for 25, 30 years. And y'all, I am a realistic fiction type of reader through and through and through. I can read realistic fiction books in a day. In like 2 hours, I can go through 3 and 4 realistic fiction books sometimes in a day. That is what I love to read. But I was forced to read these books because that is what was expected, and that was the expectation. And it really turned me off to reading. It was to the point where it was just like, oh my gosh, like I would sit there. It was painful. It was, and you have to think about it. That's the emotions that I was associating with reading in general. So if that's the kind of emotion that I'm associating with it, and I have to go through years of school where I am forced to read these select novels, what is that doing for the reader? How is that helping them become a lifelong reader? It's not. It's turning them completely off to reading. And then you incorporate things like AR, and you say, and I'm not saying, oh, AR is great or oh, it's terrible, but just listen to what I'm saying. Then you incorporate things like AR, and in AR, there's not a test for every single book out there. So sometimes things that kids are really interested in, there might not even be a test out there for that book. So you know what? They don't read it. Why don't they read it? Because they're trying to find a book that has a certain points value, so that way they can earn those points in AR. So again, what kind of emotions and what kind of feelings are we associating with reading right there? We're associating that it's a job. You've got to find a book that has this many points, you've got to read it, and then you've got to take a quiz that gives you surface level questions, multiple choice. So what does that do to a reader? And that's just some kind of things that I want you to think about. So as I start thinking about reading instruction, that's kind of my story and how I've gotten to where I'm teaching 5th and 6th grade now. So last year, I decided, okay, I've got to try to get some more current novels. I've got to try to get some novels that my kids are really going to be excited about. So I decided to do class novels in my class, and I think I've mentioned this before, but I started off with Hatchet. I was so excited. I made all this nature stuff. I tried to think of ways to make it really engaging. And y'all, long story short, here's what I learned. It didn't matter what I did to the classroom. It didn't matter what kind of nature stuff I made. It didn't matter how I tried to force this book down my kid's throat, because at the end of the day, that's how I felt, like I was forcing this book down their throat. At the end of the day, it didn't matter what I did to teach that book. At the end of the day, there were still going to be kids that hated that book. And I have to tell y'all, the majority of my class hated that book. So here I am mid-novel, and I'm teaching my heart out. I'm trying to think of ways to make it engaging. I'm excited at the beginning, and as I get into it and realize my kids hate it, I'm going, oh my gosh, now I'm trying to rush through it, and I'm trying to hurry our study, and I'm freaking out as a teacher because I'm like, oh my gosh, my kids hate this book. It's miserable. They don't enjoy it. They're not into it. So what does that do to my reading instruction? Then it transforms my reading instruction to how fast can I get through this? How much, I'm trying to get this content in, but I've got to get this book done because they hate it. And so this summer I really started thinking to myself, I was like, why? Why am I doing that? Why am I trying to force novels down kids' throat? Like, why am I trying to make them read these things? Because when I reflect back on last year's instruction, we got through 7 novels, and I felt like I was really doing something. And then I started to think about it, and I'm like, 7 novels in a year? Think about my kids that love reading. Like, I was limiting them to 7 novels a year when they probably could have read 70 novels that year, but it was because I was confining them to saying, oh, no, I've got to have control. As a class, we have to read this novel. Together, we're going to study it. That way, I have control of the instruction. I can pick out pieces and parts, and we're all on the same page. Why does everyone have to be on the same page? That's my question. And so that's what we're kind of going to talk about tonight. Why do we all have to be on the same page to have really effective reading instruction? So here's what's kind of brought this about is when, as teachers, we're always looking for validation. This is the way that I have always felt as a reading teacher. Even when I taught 1st, 2nd, and 3rd grade, I even mentioned long before I read this book, all about students self-selected reading. And I love that y'all are putting comments down there and talking together. I love that because I go back and read these and I think on things and I reflect, and then I also do blog posts to kind of answer some of your questions. So please continue to talk in the comments below. Even though I might not be able to answer them all right now, I will take some questions and thoughts at the end. So as teachers, we love validation. I always knew that self-selected reading was huge with students. And if we really wanted to motivate and we really wanted to inspire, we had to let students tap in to what they were reading. So I always felt that way. I always felt really strongly about that. And then this summer, I picked up this book and I had heard some things about it. But let me just be really honest with y'all. This is me being completely honest. I hate professional development books 90% of the time. I'm sorry, y'all. When I pick it up, it kind of goes back to that engagement factor and what we're talking about today. There's some professional development books that I'm like, oh my, this is not, I cannot connect to it. It's not relevant to me. I don't understand it. I don't get it. It's not meaningful to my classroom. That's how kids feel when we make them read books because we think, oh, this is something that every child should read. Why? Why are we selecting those books? So anyways, I really don't like professional development all the time, but when I find something really, really good, I can always tell because I read it in a day. And so I found this book and I started reading it and I could not put it down. I read it in a day. So I'm going to show you what that book is, and I highly recommend every single person go and get it because it's totally transforming the way that I'm going to do reading instruction this year in my classroom. So it is by Donna Lynn Miller and it's called The Book Whisperer. I know so many of you have heard of this book. If you have not, go out and buy this book right now. Buy The Book Whisperer, become a closet reader. Meaning if your husband or wife is asleep in the bed, go in your closet, turn on the light, and read it tonight. Like seriously, it is that good. Then after you have finished reading this book, go politely and ever so nicely and maybe add some chocolates or some coffee or something. I don't know, a nice little, not a love letter, but a nice little letter or something and lay it on your principal's desk. Because y'all, this is something that every teacher needs to read. I don't care if you're a reading teacher or not. Every teacher needs to read this book because it talks about ways that we can motivate and engage and get our students to become lifelong readers when essentially isn't that our goal? And so I'm not going to go a lot into that book because I want you to buy it and read it yourself. I'm telling you, it will change your life. If you read anything, read this book. It validated everything that I felt. And now I'm like, this is like, I want to call her my friend, even though she's really not my real life friend. I want to call her my friend because I'm like, this girl's got it going on. And I love her because she has done the research and she has research to back up this philosophy of allowing our students choice. So get that book, read it in your closet, and then put it on your principal's desk so that they will read it too. Because I feel like so many times we are so stuck in a rut when it comes to reading instruction. And it's sad, y'all. It's really, really sad because reading is really what feeds into our students being successful in every single other area. And yet teachers still aren't getting it. And they're still thinking, oh, that's not my job. That's the reading teacher's job. If they're sitting in math or science or social studies class and they're struggling understanding a text, oh, that's not my job. That's the reading teacher's job. What are y'all doing in language arts? No. What are we doing as teachers in every single classroom to really encourage and give our students, an environment that encourages reading practice and good reading practice? So after I read her book, y'all, I'm telling you, I was like, yes, even though I teach 5th and 6th grade, I'm going back to what I did in those early years with my 1st, 2nd, and 3rd graders, and I'm turning my classroom instruction around. We are not doing class novels. We will have class read-alouds, but I'm not doing class novels this year because, like I said, my kids finished 7 novels last year, and I was like, oh my gosh, this was amazing because a lot of schools, typically it's 1 a quarter, right? It's like 3 or 4 novels. Y'all, is that all we really want for our students to read in a year? And so after reading this book, I'm like, okay, this is exactly what I have always felt. And now there's research and there's ideas to back that up. And so I can feel good about saying, I'm ditching the class novels because I even remember last year I was so excited about the Weston game, and so I did that novel with my class, and then I started talking to Layla, and she came into me as a really reluctant reader, and I started talking to her about the book, and I just thought that everybody would love the Weston game. I was like, oh, this is so I love the Weston game, and she said, Miss King, if I have to be honest with you, I really hated that book. And I'm like, as a teacher, we spent several months reading this book. And the whole time, poor Layla was dreading that book. And I'm going, as a teacher, my job is to encourage reading. So why am I sitting here trying to force these novels and trying to make them happen when my kids could be spending that time engaged in novels and books and literature and things that they enjoy? My husband's a perfect example. He oftentimes says he hates to read, or he says, I don't like reading. It's not my thing. But then I'll see him on the computer, on his cell phone, and he's constantly looking up news articles. Isn't that reading? Isn't that reading and really getting into things that you're interested in? So anyways, when you read this book, part of the thing that's really hard for me as a teacher is letting go. Right? As teachers, we are like straight up type A personality people. We do not like to cut the strings and to let things go and to relinquish that power to our students. But this year, I'm making it happen. And y'all, sometimes even if they like to read like Diary of a Wimpy Kid, I hate those books, by the way. And I'm like, last year I'd think, oh my gosh, you're reading Diary of a Wimpy Kid? What kind of substance is that? What kind of content is that? That's not, really transforming your vocabulary and really enhancing your... But y'all, if they enjoy it. You've got to let it happen. But as a teacher, you've got to be a facilitator to recommend books and to give students options and to try to keep feeding them with options and with selections that potentially will grow what they enjoy reading. So that is kind of what this book is all about. And I'm really excited about reading this year, probably more excited than ever before, because here's the thing. I'm still going to teach. It's still going to be rigorous. I'm still going to teach my students how to comprehend and best practices and reading skills, but they're going to get to apply that in books that really set their minds on fire, that sets their reading fire, sets them on fire for reading versus me saying, okay, let's get our novel out. Let's read together. That wastes so much time. So my kids, they don't know this yet, and I'm anxious to see how they respond to it, but here's the great thing. When you do something like that, you allow kids to read and really just continue to read and get a lot of reading material in. And so remember how I said last year we read 7 novels and I was like, bam, we killed that. This year, my kids are going to be required to read 40 books. And so think about that. We wonder why kids are not successful at the end of the year in reading. Sometimes we have limited them so much because we have to read this novel and we have to read it together and we have to look at certain passages versus just letting loose and letting them go and letting them read. Doesn't it make that much more sense to allow students to engage in reading materials that they feel passionately about and strongly about? Now, that doesn't mean that they're just allowed to continuously read science fiction if that's what they're into. You kind of have to give them some guidelines, but as far as those genres, they get to pick the books that they want to be able to meet those requirements. So that is kind of the answer to the $1 million question. How do we get students to love reading? You have to let them read what they love. It's simple. How do we get them to love reading? You have to let them read what they love. That is how students get really into reading. That is how students take their reading to the next level and want to research further. Oh my goodness, I read this in a book. I got to find out about it. It's because it's their interest. Think back to your experiences as a reader when you were in middle school and high school and you had to read these thick books and, Romeo and Juliet. And I know that some people love it. And that's great. That's what's so wonderful about reading. I hated it. It wasn't my thing. And so it really turned me off to reading, which is what I was doing to my kids last year when I'm trying to make these books work for them and they don't love them and they're not excited about it. And then I'm like, why are my kids not excited about reading? They're not reading what they love, and it's as simple as that. What an easy fix as a teacher is to simply let loose. Why do you feel like, it puts so much pressure on us to choose these perfect novels? When kids are perfectly capable of choosing the perfect novels for themselves. They're perfectly capable of making those selections. Even in first, second, and third grade, have that self-selected reading option. So I have been working. I have bloodshot eyes, and I'm going to take questions in a minute and comments and talk about some things before I let y'all go. But I have been working on a few things that I want to share with you because I'm so excited. I met yesterday, or some of you tuned in to my Periscope with Adam DeVico with the Cheers and Chants. Before y'all ask, I promise it's coming. I've had some technical issues, but I promise it's coming. And so Adam and I were sitting, and he is like me. He is an ELA guy. He loves reading. He loves books. And we were talking about this, and I was sharing with him some of the things that I was, reading in this book and thinking back to my beginning years as a teacher. And we started really collaborating on kind of a reading program that gets rid of the reading logs and some things, and uses a lot of what I read in this book, but kind of puts our own little twist on it. So I'm going to share a little sneak peek with you all of what Adam and I are creating. And then he's going to be back in September, and we're going to be sharing this with you all. I'm so excited about it. So nobody else is going to hear about this. I'm not posting it on my blog. I'm not posting it on Instagram. I'm just sharing it with you all. So I'm really excited to turn everything that's going in my head into something tangible, into something that can be implemented into classrooms that will hopefully bring back a love for reading, bring back, and I do want to talk about how do you make this work with state mandates and curriculums and things that your district requires. I'm going to talk about that in a second with some of your questions, but let me share with you what I've got going on. So I'm going to flip you around for just a second. All right. So as Adam and I were talking, we had this idea, and it is called the Reading Bucket List. So this is actually kind of a reading program, if you will, that implements all of the things that I was just sharing with you, just talking about, to where we are creating something where kids are going to be really excited about reading, because here's what it does. We have created a bucket list of 60 reading, kind of genre, not really genres, but different types of reading. So we have a top 10, and I don't want to give you too much information yet. I kind of want to leave you hanging a little bit, but we have a top 10 must-read list, and then we have a selection of 50 other types of literature or pieces of reading material that the kids can read and select. Now, it just gives them kind of the genre or the topic or the type of reading material, and then they get to select what book matches that. So I'm not even going to show you the reading genre sheet yet. I'm not going to get into any of that. I just wanted to give you a little teaser because we've been emailing back and forth. We've really been working on this. But y'all, I think this, I'm so excited to incorporate this into my class this year. I think this is going to transform the way that kids feel about reading and get them excited about what they're reading, give them that self-selecting option where they get to choose the reading materials. And I'm super, super, super excited about this. And the next thing I have coming out quickly, just to share with you, I'm not going to go much into this because I know some people have commented. I'm also creating how to participate in literature circles like a professor. So this is coming out soon too. And let me kind of tell you where this came. So I shared with you the Book Whisperer. So if you're just now tuning in, y'all, seriously, buy this book, be a closet reader, read it in a day because it will rock your world. It will change your life by Donna Lynn Miller. Read it, put it on your principal's desk. I'm serious. I'm just like, why is every school not doing this and reading? It just blows my mind. And then the second book, and this is kind of, it depends on the grade level. I would say this is a 3rd through 8th grade level book, really even high school. But, you, as a teacher, if you're teaching 3rd or 4th, I might not let the students actually read this. It's kind of something that can really help you as you develop lessons and ideas. But I've mentioned this book before. It's called How to Read Literature Like a Professor for Kids. When I tell you this is like a dummy's manual, and after I read it, I felt like a dummy. I was like, oh my gosh, like it's that simple. This really breaks down literature for kids and gives them concrete ideas and concepts to really be able to understand the things that they're reading. This is genius. And after I read it, I was like, I have been doing literature circles all wrong. When it comes to literature, they're called literature circles, right? I have been doing literature circles all wrong. This has totally changed my philosophy, my idea behind those. So I've kind of developed this whole new concept and idea behind literature circles. It's really different. It's really unique. And so I'm trying to put that together for you all and get that out as well because it's also something that I'm going to be implementing. So this year I'm going to implement the reading bucket list and I'm going to be implementing literature circles. So I'll definitely keep you posted on how this is going, how the kids are responding to it, you know, how it's really promoting that reading engagement. And I'm noticing that they're really enjoying what they read and that option of choosing books. So I'll definitely keep you posted. But honestly, if you take away anything from this tonight, 1, get the book, and 2, make sure that you are giving students options to read what they love and what is meaningful and relevant to your kids. Because at the end of the day, if they love it and they're all about it, that reading engagement and the reading success and achievement is just going to happen. Now, you're going to have that good quality instruction, but as teachers, we've got that, right? So now it's just about getting students engaged and interested and excited. So allow students that option because I'm telling you, I've seen it in younger grades and I'm excited about seeing it this year because I totally lost sight of that as a teacher. And I'm just being really honest about the fact that, you know, I felt like in upper grades, oh, I've got to have the control. I've got to get these kids. But honestly, if we just let go, sometimes the best things come out of that. So I'll definitely keep you posted. So I want to hear, you know, your thoughts or questions or ideas or things that you want to have answered maybe. I'll try to answer it, you know, based on what I think. Again, this is not one size fits all. So I want you to understand these are just my feelings and the things that I've seen work in my classroom. So where can we find your reading bucket list? It's coming. I think Adam DeVico is in here somewhere. Adam, are you in here? Oh yeah, there he is commenting. So Adam and I have been working and putting this together, and we're really, really excited about it. So it will come out. It will make its debut in September, right, Adam? Is that right? In September, he's going to be back, and we're going to have it finished by then. We also have it going out into some schools. We're piloting it in some schools as well, just to get some, you know, some information behind it and some data behind it. So we're really excited about that. So, yeah, Adam is on Periscope as well. Make sure you follow him. He's Adam DeVico, D-O-V-I-C-O. Adam, put your link below because he has some great ideas. September 18th. So Reading Bucket List will be out September 18th. I'm hoping to have literature circles done within the next week or so. So that will be out soon. But Reading Bucket List September 18th is coming to you. So until then, we will make up on our own. I will keep doing some Periscopes about some reading, some things that I'm working on, because I start school September 2nd. So I'm going to kind of get those kinks worked out, because I don't want to give you something that I have not tested and tried and really went through and thought about. Adam and I don't just want to give you something that we're like, oh, I think this could work. We want to make sure that we have it, really thorough for you all. So that's kind of why we're putting some time behind it, trying it out, testing it out before we actually give it to you all. Okay. All right, any other questions? I have friends who are current students at RCA. Awesome. Who are they? I start school tomorrow. Best of luck. Does the Reading Whisperer address kids who are truly struggling with reading? Yes. Oh, my word, yes. It gives so many tips and techniques and talks you through. And she includes stories, which I connected right away to those. I could see faces of my kids, of my readers throughout the year. So, yes, I'm telling you, this book is where it is at. Every teacher should read it, okay? I started school 2 weeks ago. Send us the bucket list. All right, we're really excited about some schools trying this out for sure. Can I use the bucket list with first grade? So right now, we're trying it with 3rd through 8th grade, and we'll see how it goes from there. I think that we could, potentially develop it for younger grades, but right now it's just going to be 3rd through 8th, just as we're getting our feet wet and trying some things and getting some philosophy out there with it and trying things in classrooms. So right now, 3rd through 8th. Let's see what else. Asada. Oh, Asada was a student. That was awesome. I love Asada. All right. Any more questions before I let you all go? But I hope that you all are, excited about allowing your students some choice and really thinking as a teacher, what is most valuable to you? What is most important to your kids as you're getting into reading curriculum and really allowing them to make some decisions? Will there be a way for class to connect about what they're reading on their bucket list? Yeah, I think that would be really cool if we had some kind of blog where students could talk and recommend books to one another. That is a great idea. Anything else? All right, y'all. So I think that's it, but I will definitely be back. This is going to be one of many scopes with reading. I just kind of wanted to get this idea out there and my thoughts out there, recommend this book to you all. I also recommend the How to Read Literature Like a Professor for Kids. I wanted to get some book recommendations out there with you all so that you could get this reading material too. And as I start scoping about reading, because like I said, this is going to be one of many, you all can really connect to what I'm talking about. We can share our ideas. We can share our thoughts, because what's going to make this type of thing really valuable and really successful is our collaboration with one another as well. So I'm also excited about that. So this is just kind of a starting point. So how do you get exposed to different genres? Okay, so there are, you'll see, oh goodness, I don't want to spoil it too much, but Adam and I have really sat down and thought about this reading bucket list. And anything in this reading bucket list exposes them to so many different genres, but there's also going to be some guidelines. So all of that information will be in there. We're still processing that and thinking through. So it's definitely going to be in there. How to read literature, but okay, the title, How to Read Literature Like a Professor for Kids. Okay, so here is that book, How to Read Literature Like a Professor for Kids. They also have the adult version. I bought that and I'm reading it. I'm like, oh my gosh, why did I not know this stuff before? It just makes such perfect sense. All right, y'all, so I gave you 2 book recommendations. I'm really excited about those. I'm excited about transforming my classroom with these literature circles and this bucket list. I have so many ideas. I'm like, can we start school tomorrow? I really don't mean that. I need more time. But we start September 2nd, and I cannot wait to get in the classroom and get this going so that way I can come to Periscopes and I can give you examples of what my students were doing and how they responded. Because at the end of the day, you're going to notice, just like I did when I was reading The Book Whisperer, how our kids are very similar and how our stories can kind of match. And it's really going to help us better understand our readers and better understand how to give them the appropriate reading materials to really excite our readers and help them to love it. So remember, if you want your kids to love reading, you got to let them read what they love. I think I love that line, and I'm going to stick to it because I think it is huge in reading instruction. So I've enjoyed talking with y'all. I can't wait to go back and read your comments tonight. I know this was kind of like a front loading, if you will, Periscope, but I promise you this is the first of many. Adam and I are going to be doing some together. So if you are kind of struggling with reading instruction, or you really haven't found, your placement with that and how you want that to work, keep tuning into these, because this is going to be something that's going to continuously grow. I'm going to continue to share stories and ideas and concepts, things that I see in my classroom, but I want to hear your ideas too. So I'll be back later on. I am leaving tomorrow for our RCA retreat. where we go and plan out the entire year. So I'm super, super, super excited about that. I'm sure that when I'm around those teachers, who knows, more ideas are going to come to me. And so I'll probably have a ton to share when we get back from that. But I hope you all have a great week. If you've already started school, I hope it's going well. If you're starting this week, best of luck. I think it's Wednesday, so most people probably already started. If you're starting next week, best of luck to you. But I will see you all next time when I'm talking about some more reading engagement or other ideas. And I promise to get the cheers and chants out to you. And I promise to get the Jenga out to y'all. It's coming. I'm trying to get it uploaded before I leave tomorrow for our retreat. But thank y'all so much for joining me. I appreciate you. I will see you guys later. Bye, everybody.